What About Vietnam? A podcast with Gary Newsom. The series where Curry talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Xin Chào and welcome to What About Vietnam. Today we're going to take a real fun adventure in Hanoi, and we're going to be experiencing something with a lady named Fleur Sharpe, and it's a foodie episode, believe it or not. It's a crazy, crazy fun story, and I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let Fleur go without telling this story, because I think what it did for me originally was just open up my mind, and I'm hoping yours too, just about the things that you will do on a holiday that is a little bit left field, is a little bit adventurous, risky, a little bit dangerous, because it just all adds to the momentum of your trip, your storytelling. You're walking away going, wow, that was crazy, but it was fun. It was just heaps of fun. Fleur is no stranger to food. She runs her own online programs where she specialises in courses in recipes and learning how to use the Thermomix. So if you would like to know more about those, you can reach out to her on the episode notes links, as I'll have everything there for you to access her directly and book those courses. Today's episode, as I said, is a crazy adventure with a very fun lady, as she shares with us just what happened one lunchtime in Hanoi with her husband when they took on a very, very adventurous food journey. Please welcome Fleur to the program. Fleur, welcome to the What About Vietnam podcast. Great to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to tell you about my adventure.
Well, it's funny. Adventures can come in all forms. And I have to say, the adventure that you spoke about when we last chatted just blew me away. So I'm going to let you tell my listeners what your adventure entailed. Maybe that's not the right word I should be using. But in Hanoi, you decided to take up quite a gastronomic adventure, I would call it. So let's hear all about it.
Oh, well, it was an adventure, that was for sure. And I was even a bit nervous as a pretty hardcore foodie, and I pretty much say yes to everything. When my husband first floated this idea of going to this snake restaurant just a little way out of Hanoi, I was a bit like, oh, it's one of those things that sounds great in theory, but when you're actually confronted with doing it, it took me back. But I was like, when am I ever in my life going to be back here and be able to go to a snake restaurant? So I just went, look, let's just do it. I steeled myself with a bottle of French champagne. I got it on the way, and I just was like, let's let this crazy thing roll. So it wasn't planned as part of our trip. In fact, the whole trip wasn't particularly well planned. It was a bit of a last minute thing. And so we're in Hanoi.
What year is this?
It was actually 3 years ago this week. So not the best time to be there. It was hellishly hot.
Yes.
Oh my God, coming from Queensland, I'm kind of used to the heat, but this is whole other level heat and humidity. You just suck the life out of you kind of
July.
heat.
Yeah.
So what do we do? And we're wandering around, I don't know, what's that lake in the middle of Hanoi in the old end centre there?
The Ho Kim Lake?
Yeah, and we were having
West Lake.
That's it. Well, we're having one of those beautiful egg coffees. And
yes.
and then David said, I've just been doing some research and found this restaurant that I think Anthony Bourdain had mentioned in one of his adventures too. And I think it was the same trip that he met up with Barack Obama in Hanoi, and they had that famous dinner. Anyway, so he recommended it. So I went, oh, okay, I'm sold. Let's go. So off we go. It's about 5Ks. It's called the Hung Snake Restaurant, and it's about 5Ks outside of the old quarter. And off we trot. I don't think we had a booking at all. I think we just knocked on the door, and it was about midday. And they obviously
it's midday. You went midday.
Midday, yeah. So we went
With the
for lunch.
champagne.
Yeah, with a bottle of champagne under my arm. And they obviously weren't expecting us or anybody, to be honest, because we had to wake them up. They were all lying on the floor because it was so hot under the fans. We had to wake them up. It was so funny. And then they were on like in a heartbeat. They were like, come in, welcome. And basically the premise is that you choose your snake. You choose a snake and you pay for the whole snake. I think you can pay by the kilo, but we were, in for a penny, in for a pound, let's buy the whole snake, right? So we chose a Cobra for no other reason that I think it was the most expensive and the fattest.
Isn't there some story that goes with the Cobra butt? I heard that it had extra kind of virile tendencies or something about it. It's like the King Kong.
Oh, yeah. Like the Cobra
species
comes with its own marketing message, 100%. And I'll tell you more about that. So we choose our poor Cobra, who has been caught in the wild. These people that have been doing it, they're fourth generation snake catchers in the wild. So that's what the owner, who was actually the son of the owner. So he was fourth generation. His name was Dragon. Not sure whether that was his stage name or his actual name, but it was Dragon. And he talked us through it. So we chose our Cobra, and then obviously the Cobra had to, meet its maker. So to distract us while that happened, they did a bit of a snake show. So I know you're not a fan of snakes, so this would have completely freaked you out. Mm-hmm. But they get the snake out and they do this kind of snake magic kind of thing, and it was fun and terrifying at the same time.
I hope by now you're having the champagne.
Oh, yeah. Like I was having it in the cab.
I was going to say, you have to have a few champagnes by this stage just to 100%. Take that show in. Okay.
Yeah. So then they sit us down and the show begins. And Dragon presents every course to us. So it was basically a 12-course degustation of Cobra. Now, I love food. I'm pretty adventurous, bit of a foodie, studying gastronomy. So I kind of I've had some really great meals in my life around the world. I think there's a reason why Cobra hasn't taken off as a gastronomic thing because I read the reviews on TripAdvisor and everyone's going, oh, this is a great restaurant. This is fantastic. I'm like, I don't remember a single flavour with the exception of two. Like it was just a lot of it was deep fried, but you've got to go. Don't let me put you off. Like you've got to go. But They come out. The first thing they do is that they give you, well, because I was with my husband, they gave it to him. It was the still beating heart of the Cobra in a shot of vodka, and he had to down it. And the thing was, if you drink it while it's still beating, it gives you longevity and
long life and
you're bulletproof. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another shot of vodka with this bright green, like nuclear green liquid in it, which is the bile, which was for me. Honestly.
Did you hold your nose?
I didn't. I was just like, Anyway, I was just like, okay, it's a shot of vodka. Down it goes. And it was like bile. It was pretty bitter. It wasn't pleasant, but, that was my first. And it was pretty much all downhill after that. Oh, with the exception of one thing. My husband got, because there was only one, he got to eat the penis. And there was this whole story. There was this whole story around, what eating a cobra's penis will do for a man. And, this Hung, the owner, he was totally into it, totally believed his own PR. And we bought into it too, to be honest. So we ate that. And then it proceeded with dish after dish after dish of different parts of this poor Cobra, which we had no hope of eating like in its entirety. In fact, I think Hung's family ate very well for the next week off the leftovers.
But do you add salt and pepper or has it got herbs and spices?
Yeah. There was one that was very much like Kentucky Fried Cobra. It was,
Right.
yeah, and it was off the bone. It was like backbone and it was all kind of spicy, crunchy and all that stuff. And then there was one that was kind of like spring rolls and one that was in a salad and yeah. And then it was a blur, to be
Oh,
honest.
God.
So it was pretty funny. And then the champagne ran out and they bought out a bottle of Vietnamese vodka. And there's a reason why it's $4.50 a bottle. It's pretty rough and
Pretty
ready.
rough.
But after what we'd been through, it was like, whatever. But it was certainly an experience. And then they took us down to where they keep all the snakes, the snake boxes, which would have completely freaked you out. So we went down, we got down this, you know how they do in Vietnam, those tiny rickety wooden staircases that go around and around and around. So it was like going into the bowels of hell. And then we went down and we went out to sort of the garden where there was all these boxes, wooden boxes full of snakes. And they explained to us, that when they go out into the long grasses that to find snakes, that's where they bring them back to. And that was when the dragon's father arrived. And I think his name was actually Hung. And he was the original Hung.
Do you reckon
Well,
he ate a lot of penises to be called Hung? Or
oh my God, I just
is
put
there
that
any
together.
correlation?
How did I miss that? Of course.
I don't know where I went to with that, but I just thought Hung
So
penises,
funny.
like, oh my God.
Well, the problem with poor
Virility.
Hung is he'd been doing it for so long, he only had 3.5 fingers left. So because, he literally had virtually no fingers left. This old man, well, he looked like an old man. I said to David, look, he's probably 45, but he looked 85.
Did he have like 25 children or something because of all this
huge
virility?
families. Yeah, huge families.
Mm.
Yeah.
So he's worn out, obviously.
Clearly. Yeah, clearly.
And like, did they speak at all about the poisonous side of things, or
Well, no, they sort
the
of
venom?
they
Did
said that
ever
was
come up?
removed. The way that they kill it means that doesn't go through any of the flesh, so it's done pretty well. And from what I understand, no one's died yet.
So talk to us a little bit, Fleur, about you went at lunchtime. So was this kind of like 1 o'clock? And then like how long did you actually spend out there?
We went about midday from memory, and 12 courses take some time, and we were still there sort of come late afternoon, early evening, and a lovely American couple came from Texas, and we sort of pulled up a chair with them and kept, they didn't do the full 12 courses. So we ended up meeting some really lovely tourists, and we shared a cab back into Hanoi with them, which was lots of fun. We shared the bottle of vodka with them. So we were there pretty much the whole afternoon, and it was like the most incredible experience. I remember telling you about it. Like I still glow about it, even though it wasn't like a real foodie experience. It was a fantastic all-round adventure.
And you're right in saying that. I mean, first I would put it down to maybe a dare that, as a backpacker or something, and a whole heap of guys and girls, etc., might go and do. But when I spoke to you, and because you're a sophisticated lady, you're well educated in food and all this type of thing. That's why I was fascinated. I was thinking, my God, she was game enough to do it. I definitely couldn't go there just because I can't stand reptiles, and I certainly can't stand snakes. But the fact that it is an experience you can have in Vietnam, I really wanted to have you on the show to share that with people, to say, look, you can go as wild as you like. You can be as adventurous as you like. I've got proof. I'm talking to this lady. It's 2021. She survived it. She's here to tell the tale. And she had a fun time. You've walked away with saying it was a great experience. Was it expensive?
Well, the way we did it was, which is buying.
Well, you started with the French champagne, so it was, it kicked off with a good start.
Yeah, it's the Cobra was about, I think you pay by the kilo. I think we paid about $250 US for it.
Wow.
But that could have easily fed 6 to 8 people with that. We didn't need to do it that way. And the other couple that came in, they were just ordering a few dishes. You weren't killing a whole snake just to feed them. So you don't have to do it that way. But I'd say if you're adventurous and you want a good story to tell and good pictures to take home and add to your photo book, it's certainly a once in a lifetime experience. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
You'd highly recommend it. Well, that's good to know. And I think, because we talk about going to Vietnam, and some people get a little bit concerned about some of the species of animals that
Yeah.
can get dished up. I mean, would you agree with me? You've got to kind of go with an open mind, haven't you?
Everywhere you go over the world. Like I actually don't think you've got any business traveling if you're not up for experiencing and saying yes to things. I mean, not taking stupid risks, but come on, don't go to Paris and order a burger or order, so don't go to Vietnam and expect to eat hotel food all the time. Get out there and try something new. Push your boundaries.
Mm.
So that's the whole point of travel for me, I think.
And certainly a Cobra at 250 US, that's a fairly big swag of money for a Vietnamese
Mm.
in Vietnamese terms. So as you say, lucky that his virility could afford his wallet, because, if he's got all those kids and that big family, he would need 250 US, I guess, to spend it. I mean, what was the ambience of the place? Talk to us a little bit. Like, was it
Terrible.
was it
Terrible.
really
There was
basic, was it?
Yeah, it was like plastic chairs, but that's like how it is there,
That's
everywhere.
Vietnam.
All I really cared about is it was air conditioned, because stupidly we went in July, so
Yeah.
it was air
And
conditioned.
middle of the day.
Yes, but there was an enormous stuffed snake that decorated, that sort of hung over us. So it was, I don't know what sort of snake it was, but it was ginormous and it was stuffed and it was there. So that was kind of the backdrop of it. You were immersed in a snake nirvana.
Heaven. Yeah,
Yes.
nirvana. And, like, did you have any concerns about health and hygiene? Because this is another aspect that,
Mm.
people come to me about. How did you feel about that?
Uh, yeah, look, that if like I get that from a food point of view, like food safety and all that, and that's what I really find fascinating. Like, having worked in food safety here in Australia, and the enormously precautious approach you have to take to food safety here. Yet over there is literally meat out on the street in the middle of the day in heat, um, and food poisoning is actually pretty rare. I
Mhm.
think you've got to be pretty smart about it, but at the same time, I don't. It wasn't really something that I thought about too much, because there's other ways of making sure that foods are properly prepared and stuff, and that's probably why they deep fry a lot, and they also use a lot of salt for preserving.
Yeah.
So, and that all helps. I think I wouldn't go, and I guess this is the point of why we're doing this today, is giving a recommendation. Like, if we hadn't read the reviews and we hadn't seen that it had been a good experience for people, then we may not have gone. So I think you do your research, but I think this experience in particular is not really for people that are overly precautious. At
Yeah.
some point, you've just got to be all in and take a risk in order to have a great experience. But I think that it is also true of Vietnam as a country. It's not a
Yes.
place for somebody that wants everything in its little box and everything's predictable and planned out. It's probably not the country for you if you need that.
No. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I think you do have to be realistic. I mean, people have come to me concerned about the health and hygiene of food, because, as you say, you'll go to the markets and there'll be, fresh meat and, fish and that out on tables. But once you dig in a little bit deeper, and I actually did another podcast with a chef and in Vietnam, and she was saying, but they do 2 kills a day. So that meat that's out there early in the morning is actually all sold in about 2 hours, 3 hours tops. So it's as fresh as you can get. Sure, it's not refrigerated, but it's not there for very long before, the restaurateurs or the locals, etc., have picked it up. And I think the way they cook it, and because of the deep frying and the high temperatures, you have got that, as you say, as a safety precaution. But you're right. If you've got a stomach that is a little bit delicate, or, some smells, or, as you say, rickety chairs and, cobras stuffed on walls, and all of that's going to upset you, don't go to a snake restaurant. And I'm glad you mentioned the TripAdvisors and all the rest of it, because I've kind of used the podcast, or what I'm doing with the podcast, as almost like your live TripAdvisor. So people come on to share their experiences. We're in the middle of COVID, or hopefully we're just coming out of COVID. Let's cross fingers.
Let's hope.
And, I'm really loving talking to people about their experiences of Vietnam. So when people do trip plan, if they want to do something adventurous, they can find you and this episode and go, hey, she came out of it with a smile on her face and she sounded like she had a great time. I think that's the whole gist of it for me.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there comes a point where if you continue to keep looking, you can over-research something. Like if it sounds like a good idea and there's people out there that have corroborated that idea and go, yep, it's a good idea, then go with it. Like I think some people can have death by research and they kind of talk themselves out of it. At some point, just go, yep, let's give this a go.
Look, it's been great to have you on the show, Fleur, and there's no way I would be sharing this experience with anybody. I won't be taking the recommendation, but more because I can't stand snakes, period, let alone eating them. But I'm just want to make sure your husband and you are well, and everybody's at home is. Yeah, you brought him home safe and sound.
Yeah, he's still alive. To give you some context, he ran a marathon. He ran 42 kilometres a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was the snake, maybe it was the penis. Who knew? Yeah. But he's very, very well.
Oh, that's fantastic, Fleur. Just again, thanks for being on the show.
Pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?